He is a very impressive.
I know, here it is. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. So if you're in the audience, you quit talking. All right. Thank you all. It's been a while since the planning board has been together, so we're back with 2 new members. We're very excited to welcome. Before we ask for approval of agenda, we're going to modify the agenda to add approval of the revised September minutes, and we can remind everybody if we need to about that, but they were revised. We had never actually approved them as a board. So that modification we'd like to make to the agenda. Are there any other modifications? Motion to approve it?
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye. Are we approving September and October?
That's our next item, yeah.
Just the agenda.
That was just
That was just the agenda getting approved. So, okay. So any comments on the minutes that we have in front of us? Okay. Take a motion from someone?
Motion approved.
September and October.
September and October.
Second.
Motion in a second. There's no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And just so unanimous vote of the members. All right, so we're at the exciting part of swearing in our new members.
If you want to step down here, I can read the oath, and then swear you back to me, and you'll be good to go. Yes, I solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, and the county law not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties to the office to which I have been entrusted without fear or favor, so help me God. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Yeah. Great to have you. All right. Next, we have something we do every year is selection of a chair and selection of a vice chair.
Can I make a motion to appoint Chris Squires as chair? I would also make a motion to appoint Lindsay Cook as vice chair, since she's not here to decline.
I second.
Any discussion? Anybody else want to? Okay.
Did you ask Lindsay?
We'll let her recuse herself next time if she's uncomfortable with the role. How about that? Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Hopefully Lindsay says thank you as well. All right, getting to the heart of the agenda and probably what most people are here for. We'll let Kevin lead us off in just a moment, but we're going to have an item, a conditional zoning permit for the proposed Laurel Hotel project. Structure of this discussion is, you say this mostly for folks who may not have been to planning board before. It's not a public hearing, it is a public meeting. Kevin is going to do a presentation, staff report for us. The board will have an opportunity to ask Kevin questions at that time. We will ask the applicant if they have any presentation or comments they would like to make. The board will have an opportunity to ask the applicant questions. After we've done that, we will take, if anyone would like to speak, we would be happy to hear your comments. Our provisos of that, we ask you to come up to the lectern here, introduce yourself with your name and your address. Try and limit comments to 3 minutes. If you can, of course, be civil, and it's a small town, and we're all neighbors, so keeping that in mind. After we have heard from the public, we may have more questions either for the applicant or Kevin, or other town staff who are here. And eventually, we will close public input, and then after discussion among ourselves, presumably we have a motion that we can discuss and vote on. But after we, and I'll say this for the board side of this, after we close public input, we will quit asking questions of Kevin and others at that time. All good? Here we go. That was a long introduction, sorry. So
That's all right.
Kevin, here you go.
Set the stage. Okay, planning board, it has been a while, and I'm glad we got to get back together. We've got a big project in front of us and then another agenda item later on. I will go through the staff report, and I might jump around a little bit so it fits the slides that I put together tonight. So I'll introduce the project. This is conditional zoning 2024-02. Conditional zoning, rezone from central business to conditional central business. The Laurel Hotel project. Gordon Lovingood and C3 Investments in North Carolina is the applicant. And this is what we all refer to as the 7-acre parcel. And the property is 7.34 acres and is located on the north side of Main Street between Hill Street and the Chatoa Resort main entrance. The proposal is for an 85-room hotel with meeting spaces, 2 restaurants, and 2 parking structures on the property. Land on the west side of the property along Hill Street at this time will remain vegetated and reserved for some future development, but that's not being considered tonight, just the site plan that's been brought before you. This property is in the WS4 watershed, but clarification what that is, that's really because we're a certain distance from Boone's watershed. That's really Boone's water. Does not affect the town's drinking water or water source. Let me move through a couple slides here. This is the tree survey. It's kind of faded, but it will identify all those trees that are 8 inches and greater. And you know there's a lot of rhododendrons and vegetation on the site if you just go back. But you can see this tree survey kind of follows what you see there. You can see the tree, there's a few in the middle, and then there's on this west side along Hill Street on that corner, there's a lot more mature trees. And then there's some also around the front along Main Street. This is the preliminary site plan, and you can see what would be called the primary entrance right across from Boxwood Lodge, and then the secondary closer to Chatola Entrance Drive. So the standard street setback is 15 feet, and it's measured from the back of the existing or proposed sidewalk. It's a little bit different in this case, but I'll explain that in a few minutes. The proposed building will be between 45 and 55 feet from where the back of the sidewalk would be constructed along Main Street, if it was along the edge of Main Street. So in some areas along this front of this, the hotel is as far back as 64 feet from the edge of Main Street, from the edge of the street. In the variable or the multiple changes to this site plan over the years, this has been pushed back significantly from where it was originally. By doing so, the point was to save trees and offer some natural buffering between the hotel and the edge of the road. By pushing the building back, to go through a couple. I'll get back to it. So by pushing the building back, the standard building height is 35 feet in central business, and that's what the property is currently zoned. But once you get back 35 feet on the property, where you measure the building height changes. No longer along the sidewalk like you would have along Main Street right here in front of Town Hall, but it would be where the primary entrance is and which in this case is on the back of the building from the street. It's the porte cochere and the main lobby entrance is on the back. Does this show up? Does this cursor show up? Okay.
Yeah.
So this level right here is, this is that primary entrance. And this point right here is 35 feet. And that would meet the code. That's the code requirement right there, 35 feet. At this point, it's 42 feet. And at the very peak of the roof, which is laid back further, is 46. I think there were some comments that from that entrance, it was 50 feet. Well, it's 46, and that's from that point. And as you can see around the building, there's going to be some areas that are more than that. So that I can get into that more as we go if you have questions about it. There's another part of the wall where, based on where that wall grade is, the final grade to the top of the roof is 49 feet. And there's still another one that's, I think I mentioned, is 55. And that would be in this area right here. That highest point from that low grade to the top of the roof is 55 feet. The applicant in their conditions has asked for a variance to allow the building height to be up to 46 feet 2 inches measured at the primary entrance, and that would be on that backside. And that's in condition 3 on the list of conditions. Go back a couple. Let's talk about parking. This is the parking deck level 1. The surface lot level. You can see it here in this part of this is the side entrance to, there's a restaurant here and then there's a restaurant here. And this is the top of that parking deck number 1. And then there's another one in the back that's independent. It is 2 levels, but this other one is 3. But as far as the required parking, with all the amenities, the hotel, the meeting space, restaurants, all of that requires 138 parking spaces. And the applicant with the 2 parking decks has 301. And so there's an excess of 163 spaces, and they plan to offer those available for public parking with a fee. You know, you pay to park, but there'd be additional parking on the site. Talk about access a little bit. Access to the site will be driveway cuts, as I explained, on the main street. No access to Hill Street. Driveway 1, or one driveway, as I mentioned, is right across from Boxwood Lodge, and that's the primary access, and it's got a little roundabout as you come into the site. And then the other is down near Chatola. There are also northbound, which is heading down Main Street towards Chatola. There'll be a left turn lane. You can see that left turn lane. And so to accommodate that left turn lane, there's going to have to be some cut into that hillside a little bit to make that room. And traffic impact analysis supported that. That was done in May of 22. And that the traffic impact at that time included a separate conference center on the left of this entrance, and also some living quarters for workforce housing. There was also some retail as part of that original plan when they did the traffic impact analysis on this site. Ultimately, DOT will perform their final site analysis, and they're responsible for issuing driveway permits for the use of this property. Most of what you see that's been improved would be impervious surfaces. So although this site does not have curb and gutter around it, it will have it when completed. So there's a limit of 24% impervious or built upon area that's identified in the watershed manual, or the watershed section of the land use ordinance. The proposed project is 45% impervious. Now, the code also allows an increase beyond the 24% up to 70. That's called special intensity allocation for commercial projects in central business, general business, and even town center that are within the watershed to increase beyond the 24%. And so this project is requesting 45% at this point, in this phase. Stormwater has to meet the land use ordinance. It's got everything that originates from this site or flows through this site has to be detained and captured and then released at a prescribed rate, so that you don't have everything just rushing off the site into the ditch on Main Street and right into the river. It's got to be held up, and there's a prescribed formula on how that has to be done. The current site plan shows a pond here, a detention pond on the north side of the entrance number 2, and also a combination of some detention underneath some lawn areas and some under some of the parking areas or the drive areas. So this is preliminary, and this has to meet our ordinance, and it would be, once it's finalized, it would be reviewed by our engineer as well and make sure that they're meeting their criteria. All along Main Street there, there's a ditch, and we clean it out periodically from time to time, and full of leaves and branches. And so addressing how you get pedestrian access to the site, let's go back out to the aerial. We've got a sidewalk that comes down Main Street on the north side and goes all the way to Hill Street. The thinking was, when this project was being considered, is keep it at that grade until you get down to the main entrance. And so you'd have a sidewalk, you can see it here, a sidewalk along the north side of Main Street, curb and gutter, and then when you get to the site and to the main entrance, then the sidewalk will be pulled into the site. And so we avoid having a sidewalk around that sharp curve. You could do it, but it's just not ideal to have to walk along the edge of the road there. And so the landscape architect has pulled that sidewalk into the site through the trees and then exit back and get back to grade once you get to the other entrance near Chatola. Where there is no sidewalk, we're going to have them also improve the ditch. So it'd be a curb and gutter along the edge of the road, then just backfilling that where that ditch is and have pipe running along the full length of that to collect storm water off the street, and then have a nice area that's a shoulder, so to speak. And that answers hopefully most of that on how that will look along the front edge of this property. There'll also be a sidewalk up Hill Street to the edge of the property, but it will not be along the edge of the road either. It'll be into the site just a little bit, and you can see that on the site plan. Public water and sewer will serve this property. I had some questions asked about capacity of our water plant. I can answer it this way. Our plant can produce 1 million gallons a day. We, on average, run about, on average, about 450,000 gallons a day. It would be now, but it would be more average, would be maybe May would be more of an average month, but we have plenty of water and able to produce enough water, so this project would not, change that in any way. I talked with Matt Blackburn of Public Works, and he said we've got adequate capacity to serve this project and any others that are coming. As far as dumpster screening, they've got an area back here where all their deliveries would come in, and they're going to collect garbage right here, if you can see that. Landscaping there, as we mentioned, there's going to be a lot of existing trees salvaged and saved in front of the hotel with the way this is laid out. We have added a staff condition, if acceptable, that they do a final, if this project moves forward, that a detailed tree preservation and selective dead removal plan required for review. And so there's some dead trees in there now. They would need to remove some of those things that are leaning and need to be removed. But we want them to keep as much of that, even the rhodos and the low ground cover, keep that as natural as possible. And so we were requiring a plan that would meet with the grading contractor, utilities contractor, and trying to minimize any disruption of that area. So that's a condition that's moved forward from the staff. The other thing is that the plan indicates a 15-foot opaque buffer along the north property line along the whole back. It should be 16. So that's a condition that we've added at staff level. I'm just going to show a few of the slides related to the building architecture and then really let the applicant share what they want, what their plans are. I'll run through a few and then answer questions if you have any. This would be the rear main entrance, it's the main entrance, but it's on the back of the building. Shows some of the materials that are planned for that. This shows to the right the rear access to the hotel, and then over on the left is the access to the restaurant, the first one on that side of the building. This is looking over the main entrance of the project, coming up the drive. This would be kind of in a courtyard area as you come up the drive. That's the circular drive is shown here a little bit. Again, the rear entrance to the restaurant, or the entrance to the restaurant, and to the right of this would be the parking deck, the top level of it. That's looking up over the top of the project from towards Ransom Street, across the front of Main Street. This is a view of, as you go to the next one. So Main Street is down here on your left, and you'd come up and go into this parking deck level. This is the first parking deck, and access is available to that level and the one below it. They're combined where you can have access between them, but the top level is only accessible from the top, if that makes sense. And then this is the parking deck that's in the back of the property. And this just shows a rendering of how that would look. If that access is one level there, and on around the other side would be the other access to the top level. In your packet, you've got applicant proposed conditions. There were 5 of them. Talking about sidewalks in number 1. Talking about trying to preserve as much of the vegetation along Main Street as possible. They've asked for the building height at 46 feet 2 inches. That's measured from the ground floor level. And there's a narrative in that describes that condition they're asking for. They're also working with Bell South and Blue Ridge Electric to determine there's some existing overhead utilities on that site, especially along Main Street. And they're trying to work with them on putting those underground. And then number 5, the applicant provide more parking that's required to offer that to town visitors for a fee. Some of you went, and we had a neighborhood meeting 2 weeks ago down at the American Legion. There's been a lot of discussion about the project. The reason, their original application was in 2024 in July. We had worked with them long before that, but the official application came in 24, so that's why the 24 is noted on the application there before you. Um, And I included 2 letters. We received 2 letters. One was today and one was last week. So I included those either in your packet or I think we put them in front of you today. I think that's enough. I'll be glad to answer questions.
Questions for Kevin at this time? Anybody from your side? Okay. The applicant, whoever's representing them, like to come and say what you would like to say.
Hey, hi everyone. If I can just steal a cord and I can.
This one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Stuck there. To transfer to this mic here, or can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin, for that
Okay.
presentation. That's probably cool. Wonderful. Okay, thank you again very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for seeing our project this evening and being in front of the planning board. My name is John McGinn. I'm the principal architect from Chamberlain Architects. We're a hotel-based architect out of the Toronto area. We do hotel projects across Canada and the US. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the proposed Laurel Hotel project. These are just some of the quick things we run through, but a quick introduction on the project. We've got some site context, the proposal itself, and then some appendix for any further questions. Okay, so as Kevin touched on, I wanted to quickly talk about the developer themselves. So Gordon Lovingood is an experienced hotelier, has been coming to the Blowing Rock area for a very long time, has had a home here for almost 30 years, and is completely intertwined in this project and sees this as a really wonderful opportunity for the town, a wonderful opportunity to provide his expertise and his passion in a rooted place that he loves. Quickly talked about the project team. We also have Mike True here from Mesco Civil Engineering. He's going to help answer some of the questions. Our landscape architect is Ron Cutlett. He's not here, unfortunately, today, but we can help answer some of those questions if they do come up. And we also have Eleanor Erickson, who's our hospitality and operations strategist. The next slide here. So I want to talk a little bit about the design and how we've kind of worked through that and come up with what we're going to present today. So, we wanted to think through a little bit of the downtown connection. So, the natural extension of Main Street activity, wrapping around, increasing a kind of strong walkability and pedestrian connection from the hotel to downtown, helping improve guest and visitor movement throughout the site through some of the sidewalks that have been demonstrated already tonight. And also increasing some on-site parking to help ease some of the downtown parking challenges. So the economic and local support piece, one of the things that the developer is very passionate about is, providing an opportunity for, North Carolina and local vendors, makers, contractors where possible, helping support local businesses through increased visitor activity, spending, create opportunities to promote local events, seasonal tourism, dining, gathering, and different hospitality uses on the site that help benefit the residents along with the visitors. So the next piece is landscape and town character. So, we wanted to kind of work with the existing character of the site. Some of the things that Kevin's talked about, we'll touch on a little bit here as well, emphasizing the natural planning and regional characteristics of the site, maintaining that nice buffered edge that we've been talking about, and helping to support a more attractive pedestrian experience and helping the project feel, consistent with the beauty and character of Blowing Rock. And then the last piece is, a further introduction to more jobs and workforce development. So, this creates a year-round hospitality employment opportunity, helps create more hotel operations, events, maintenance, guest services. There's a partnership that Gordon's done some work with for some local universities and different hospitality and training programs that can help assist through this project as well. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the site context. I'll flip through some of these a little bit quicker, but here's some images of the project. So we've got a view facing along Main Street on the top side from Hill Street. The second image B, that's a view looking up towards the subject property at the Chatola entrance. And then we have C image that's taken from Ranson Street looking down towards the manor. So this is the proposal itself. So it's an 85-room hotel, about 82,000 square feet. We have 2 restaurants and bars, about 10,000 square feet. It's a 3-story building, and we have about 3,500 square feet of conference space that's divisible into a couple of different sizes and opportunities. We have an outdoor venue. We'll see kind of in the centralized area there in the next slide. And then the parking spaces. So we have 301 parking spaces, which 138 required based on the program, the planning program, and 163 surplus parking spaces. So this slide here is a rendered site plan that shows the hotel position. We can see our rooftop patio just kind of to the left of the hotel word, the event lawn. You can see the restaurant area off to kind of the northern portion of the building, hotel drop off. We've got our 2 parking decks. We've got our 2 access points. So access point B coming off of Main Street. That's our first one beside the Chatola entrance. And then access A, which is kind of in the center section of the site. You can also start to see the meandering pathway that's running through along Main Street, and also the naturalized buffer that's remaining between the main entrance and Hill Street. So the next slide is a ground floor plan of the project. So going from north to south, that is the main drop off, the porte cochere. Moving down into the lobby area, we've got our lobby bar that spills out into the event lawn. As you keep kind of pushing down to the middle of the building, some of the services. We also have the separate entrance location for the shared entrance location for the conference space. The conference space is off the left-hand side. Then we have our first kind of bank of rooms on the ground floor on the south side, and off to kind of the upper right. That's our restaurant entrance off of parking deck 1. Got a centralized kitchen that again supports the secondary restaurant as well, and a patio that faces that naturalized area along Main Street. As you get up to floor 2, the building starts to step back where the restaurant area is on the top right-hand portion of the screen, and this floor is made up of purely hospitality rooms, so guest rooms. We get up to our 3rd floor. Again, the majority of this floor is hospitality rooms. Although on the left-hand side, we do have an indoor amenity space, kind of bar/restaurant area, indoor-outdoor patio. And on the far left-hand side, that's just an outdoor space for guests of the hotel. So one of the other things that we had kind of talked about previously is the previous proposal. And through working with town staff, we've been able to come up with an alternate concept where we've been able to push the building back, create more of that naturalized area that we talked about. So you can see in the original proposal outlined in red, that was the original position of the building. So the building has now been pushed more kind of northwest into its current position. And you can see in some of the illustrated dimensions there, the dimensioning of the building and the location from the backside of the curb. So I think at the closest point, we're in kind of a 60-foot range up to 75, 80 plus feet in other locations, which is really helping us kind of nuzzle the building back and start to screen it from Main Street. So the next slide here is some of the discussions that we've been having about the overall building height. So one of the challenges that we've been having as we've been working on the design of the building is, how to make this truly fit into, the Blowing Rock context and come up with a true kind of mountain resort lodge vernacular. In working with the 35-foot height requirement, we looked at some mansard roof options. We looked at some different design options, some flat roof options. And, unfortunately, when you start playing with different architectural styles, they start to lend themselves to look like different architectural pieces. And the challenge that we had is this started to look a little more French, a little more European. And we felt that those sacrifices weren't getting the project to where it needed to be to kind of fit into this local context. So that's where we're kind of, one of the reasons we're before you today to kind of talk through some of these additional heights. One of the previous old ordinances, there was some provisions about additional height as the building stepped back. The diagram to the top right is showing the 5-foot increments and the extra additional height. By playing and adjusting to that and pushing the building further back, you can see there's just a small portion of the rooftop that would actually fall into that category if that provision was still available. Oops, sorry, jumped too far. The next slide is demonstrating some of the proposed materials for the project. Strong masonry base, some larger timber finished structural materials, and then the majority of it is wood cladding, and different types of avenues for that, cedar shakes and different types of cladding. This is one of the rendered views that we wanted to demonstrate today. This is a kind of a shot aerial taken Cornish Street. It really starts to demonstrate how the project has been pushed back, and as we're able to maintain some of the natural vegetation, we can really start to disguise and push back the building. You can also start to see the meandering path that's running through on the kind of south side and through the middle of the photograph there. You can also see on the right-hand side here, that's the stair coming down from the restaurant drop-off area. This next view is taken from Ransom Street, looking down towards the Chatola entrance. So you can start to see, there could be some areas of the building that will poke through. You will see some of the massing of the building. The interesting piece there is as that naturalized area starts to evolve and change and go through different seasons, it obviously shows for different opportunities and different, vistas of the building. This next view, this is about the first time that the site opens itself up and kind of exposes itself to downtown. So on the right-hand side, you can see Main Street, you can see the highly vegetated area, and then we get into some retaining walls as we step up and kind of enter into the main portion of the building. That portion that you're looking at there, that's the conference center area. That again is kind of, nestled in there with further retaining walls and this is the front entrance rendering of the building. This is the main entrance that we were talking about earlier. This is from the north side of the project, looking at the porte-cochere and into the main entrance. This is a slightly elevated view from the main entrance roundabout, looking down on the event lawn. On the right-hand side, where the people are standing there, that would be the main entrance for the conference center. And off to the left-hand side, we can see the family coming out. That is the access point coming in from the main lobby. This is just kind of another close-up shot of the event lawn. Again, off to the left-hand side, that's access to the lobby. Right-hand side is the conference area. And then you can kind of see the 1.5, 2-story conference space off to the right-hand side. This view, Kevin had it up earlier, shows the hotel entrance on the right-hand side, shows the restaurant entrance on the left-hand side, and you can see kind of the covered loading space there with the delivery truck as well. This is a shot of the restaurant entrance, the restaurant patio area, and the stairs heading down to the meandering path back into town. This is an elevation view of the parking deck number 1, the lower entry point. If I flip over to the next slide, you'll see kind of the context of that. So you can see Main Street off to the bottom left-hand side of the shot. And this is the entrance into the second level of the parking deck 1. And there's an internal ramp there that takes you down to P3. And the top portion of the ramp is entered from pretty close to the main entrance of the hotel. This is a shot of parking deck 2. This enters in at grade to the lower level. And then as Kevin noted, as you continue on past where the white SUV is, there's another entrance location to the at grade parking for parking deck 2. So that covers the majority of the presentation. I'll turn it back to the board for any questions or next step.
Questions of the applicant from the board?
I had a question about lighting. Could we craft some kind of a condition that kind of limits the lighting? I'm concerned about light pollution to Main Street and to the neighboring residential area. Can we lower the lighting and make sure that it's amber lighting, not bright lighting? And I didn't see on your slides what the upper parking deck, I assume you'd put lighting there too, and that would be raised pretty high.
Yeah, so we've actually had this condition recently on a project in Jekyll Island, Georgia. We've had to go through the same thing. We have some turtle lighting conditions, so we're quite familiar with that. We can certainly work through some concepts for that. It's a delicate balance between safety and feeling safe, but there's lots of avenues that we can look at to do that. I think that would be a fine provision, yes.
We have a requirement in the code that limits lighting at the property line to not more than 1 foot candle. And using the new style coach lights that we have that are down lights. They're not necessarily amber, but they cast a downward light. And we used to have to require house side shields on our old style, those old coach lights. And so they would be blacked out on a couple sides. So the new style actually works better. But we do have a standard of 1 foot candle, and we would require that. I can make note of it.
Just to clarify, exactly what exceptions and variances you're asking for, I went through the packet and I just want to make sure I have it correct. The conditional rezoning, 3 different height variances, and the special intensity allocation of 45% for impervious space, is that correct?
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think it would just be 1 overall height, the max. I'm not sure if it's 3 divided.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah, that's maybe one of the questions.
It's just one item. Condition number 3 is asking for 46 feet 2 inches measured from the main entrance. The rest of that is narrative, I believe, from them, from the team.
Okay, so it's conditional rezoning, height variance, and special intensity allocation of 45%. Is that correct?
Yes. So they proposed 5 conditions, one of those being height. The special intensity allocation can be added as a planning board condition if you agree to that. It can be added to the ordinance document when it's prepared. And if the planning board makes a motion to approve the special intensity at 45%, then that would go forward as a condition. Does that make sense?
Woody?
As you probably recall, we had a major flood event a couple of years ago, this Helene, and I noticed your plan includes a 25-year event. Of course, this was probably a 100-year event that occurred, but regardless, so what is in the event something like similar to that happens, how does that work within your plan?
I've got our civil engineer here. He can maybe hop up and help answer that question. Mike, do you want to come on up?
Yes. Although it would be, we are designing our stormwater for the 25-year event, and that includes stormwater detention. And as Kevin mentioned earlier, when you have an initial rainfall, it gets stored and then it gets released no faster than, well, they have pre-described rates, but generally speaking, it's what it would run off as if it was not developed. So that will help, and the 25-year storm will help. At some point, you just can't design big enough to handle, an event that happens like we saw last fall. And so I think the detention will help, and the upsizing of the pipes will help, and I think that's about as much as we can do in that kind of an event storm. I think one thing that we are doing is that ditch that goes along Main Street. We're gonna culvert that entire ditch and fill that in, and that'll be sized properly. And then we'll have to upsize the pipe that goes across the Main Street. And so I think that'll help with any kind of washing out into the road. And I know ditches are prone, and I think Kevin mentioned this before, but collecting leaves in the fall and sticks and things, and that can kick it out on the road. And I think this will be much more controlled with curb and gutter.
Yeah, right there where it goes across to the parking lot of Rocks. That's been dug out multiple times because it gets congested and then it just fills in with sand and dirt. And so tying it all together along the street with a drainage system and then curb and gutter will help some of that. And then upgrading the pipe, I think it's a
24, and we have to, it sizes out to be either a 30 or 36.
So that upgrade is their responsibility.
What's the material on the pipe?
What we will probably specify out is high-density polyethylene, that double-walled plastic pipe. We found that to have the longest life and have the best hydraulic qualities.
Question, so, yeah, go ahead. Phil.
While you're up here. The TIA review,
Yes.
how do you plan to address some of those concerns? Specifically, it says concerning the relocating of site access to allow the warranted right turn lane. How can that be addressed?
Well, are you reading from the DOT's comments or from the TIA?
DOT comments.
DOT comments, because in the TIA, they state that although the traffic counts warrant it, the location of it, that there's not enough room to put in a turn lane. And so we're planning on updating our TIA because that was based on much higher numbers as far as traffic count, because we had a lot of retail and we had a separate conference center and more conference rooms. So I think those numbers will go down and we'll just have to see what they recommend. And then,
Relocating it doesn't look like an option.
Yeah.
On site plan,
yeah,
unless you can put it in between the deck and the restaurant. Is that an option?
yeah, not really, because that deck goes under the restaurant to provide more parking, so we really couldn't come in through there.
And there's one other option, I guess, if you choose to leave it where it is. There's also a separation of 100 feet between two driveways, which would be Chatola and this drive. But you can get exempted from that. The minimum distance between the driveways does not apply if you designate that as a service road. So that, I don't know whether that's an option.
Yeah, you know, when you measure it, it's kind of misleading, Chatola's entrance, because they have such a wide entrance coming out, and it actually comes in front of this property, in front of the subject property. But if you go from the center line of their driveway to the center line of our proposed access B, it's 125 feet.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, and
There's no way you can do 100 foot
yeah,
separation, because that's measured from the tangent of the radiuses,
yeah.
not
So-
the edge of the road.
So we're going to talk with the folks that are going to do the TIA, and we're wondering if possibly there could be some reconfiguration of, obviously have to be at our cost, of their entrance, so it doesn't come over so far. So it kind of cleans that up, and so it's not, they're not co-joined, and it's real obvious, you know, where their entrance is and where our entrance is, and there's better sight distance between the two.
That'd be a nightmare with cars, one pulling out left and the other one pulling out right from Chatola. Who knows which one to go first?
Yeah.
That's just a nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah, and we'll have to follow whatever DOT says too, because we'll do our TIA, present it to DOT, and they'll review it, and then tell us if they accept it or if they want any changes, and we'll just have to do that to get our driveway permits. But that second entrance, early on in the project, when we were talking to the fire department, they really liked the idea of having two accesses and being able to drive through there. And so we spent a lot of time talking to them about that, and they felt that was good. And we also along there, we're going to run a water line. We talked with Matt Blackburn, the public utilities director, and he would really prefer the water line to come in and go around and come back out, so that it's not a dead end line, and they could keep service open if there was any problems.
Question perhaps for you, the left turn lane into the project at the main entrance has been a part of these presentations. Why isn't it part of the conditions? I mean, because it's a little bit different it's an off-site improvement, right?
Yeah. We're relying on DOT's recommendation that the one would be required, and we didn't step into their authority to, I mean, we could add it if planning board feels like should be added, but knowing that DOT controlled and had the authority over Main Street, we just relied on their recommendation.
I mean, just kind of irrespective of DOT, it did seem like it was part of all the presentation of materials from the applicant to town and then to us, so. just seemed like part of the sell to me.
Something in our early talks with DOT that they expressed a desire, they were going to require that. So we've had that all along from the very first drawings.
Chris, I did ask a question about 2 weeks ago of the team to verify that, because the TIA was based on a much more aggressive project, would the turn lane be required for this one? Because, it's disruptive to have to cut into this job site and supply the extra lane for the left turn lane. And is it warranted? Let's just don't put left turn lanes just because we feel like it needs. Let's have the data behind it to say, yes, you need it based on this revised plan, based on this plan and maybe future. And so I want to make sure that that's, as they look at revising the TIA, does it still warrant that turn lane? You know better than me. Based on the background.
Thank you. All right, yeah, sir.
Question on the parking. We've got 163 extra places. And I'm going to assume there's restaurant parking, some of it's going to be utilized for that. Is it going to be available to the public in general, or is just for those the services that you'll have at your place?
No, the plan is to have it available for the public as well.
So how would you manage that?
Right now, the upper parking deck is about 84 parking spaces alone, and the lower one is about 210 or so, 215. So we have an option to kind of split that or dedicate the one. Kind of have to work through that still.
There'd be a fee
Yes.
for locals as well?
I think that'll be part of it, yes. It's still early on. Obviously, we got to work through those details, but that is the plan. Yes, that's been the plan from day one from the developer. He's tried to find parking downtown before too.
Any other questions of, again, either town staff or that?
Quick question, how much staff does it take to run an operation like this? And are you housing staff on site?
Yes. So for a property this size, it would require a full-time hotel staff. A full-time hotel staff of anywhere from 27 to 38 people. It would require a grounds crew. It would require part-time special event servers that would work in our conference area. And it would require a sales team with probably 2 dedicated event planners.
Are you planning on housing any of those staff people on site?
So there was a discussion initially about that, and at this point, we're going to further review as the hotel progresses and kind of understand the staffing needs. But there was an option that we looked at one point, and there could still be in the future, it's just not in this proposal.
From a financial point of view, because that's kind of where I look at things. Have y'all done any projections? Obviously, you've done your projections, whether this is going to be a successful project or not. So you've put some projections out. Have you put any projections on occupancy tax, property tax, and sales tax revenue for the town of Blowing Rock that's going to pay for a lot of what we have to do for you too?
Sure. I have not myself as the architect, but I know the owner has gone through those extensively. There's been, I think he's done 2 separate hotel studies, a market study, and a construction study to understand the budgeting and all of the operational costs for the hotel.
Okay. Could you provide that
I think he'd be happy to.
somewhere along this projection so that we can kind of see what, because one of the concerns of all citizens is how much of more tax, less tax, or are you covering your own expenses? And I'd like to make sure that we get some revenue off of this too.
Of course. No, let us prepare a summary for you. I
Okay.
think that makes a lot of sense, yes.
If we don't have any other questions right now, I think we'd like to open it up to any public comment. So just a reminder, to make comment, we're going to ask you to come up to the lectern here and introduce yourself, name and address, please, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So John, you raised your hand, so.
You know, I own the building, the hotel down right below the property, and we flooded 4 times in the last 4 years. I had 3 feet of water in my parking garage. And what's going to happen, there's no runoff off that property as today. But when construction starts, what's going to happen? What are they going to do with the water and the runoff? They have no pavement or no detention system in. Where is that going to leave all the neighbors below? And then they turn the water into the creek. That's going to back the creek up even more and flood us worse, in my opinion. And then that's a real problem for all of us. All the storage units down there, all those places flood during heavy rains. Then recently, all the property right directly off of Hill Street, to the right where that little blue building is, a large construction company has bought that property, and something's going to happen there. And then on the left-hand side, all those hotels have been bought up through there by large development companies. So if this precedent is set, and you award them all these variances, then that sets a precedent for these other people that are going to develop their land. And then what are you going to do? That you're stuck in a hole, and we're supposed to have rules. Are we going to go by them or not go by them? So I think that's an important thing to consider. And then I think the massive size of this from Main Street down in front of my hotel, if you look up to the very top of this, I bet it's 70 feet up there. I don't know if that, it's probably 15 feet up to their base and probably whatever the height is. Then also the trees there, we don't have leaves for 7 months out of the year. We only got it covered for 5 months. It's going to stick up like a sore thumb the rest of the time. All those trees, most of them are deciduous, and in those pictures they showed, that is not how that property looks. I mean, I've walked through it many times, so I think those are things that we really need to consider. Further development, what are you going to do? What are you going to tell the other guys that come in to develop our property? Well, we can't help you, but we did this. So Blowing Rock needs to remain quaint. Because anyway, I don't know how we're going to do it. We don't have enough rules to stop it. But somebody's got to come up and make some hard decisions, and let's get this thing under control. This property would be great with a little smaller, little less height. They've done some beautiful work, but it's just too big for the property. And even though they have 7 acres, they're only developing 2 acres. It's very dense for that 2 acre, 80,000 square feet and all those parking decks on it. So it's really more dense than you think, because the other part, the left-hand side of it, is solid rock. Those are things I think you need to take into consideration and worry about the neighbors below. They're going to be impacted. I'm already impacted without any construction. Now what's going to happen is it could be. Then David said, Michael was talking about the traffic counts are probably too high right now, where they're going to have all the business they're talking about. It looks like the traffic counts are going to be higher than what they were projecting. So if you've got 2 restaurants and 85 rooms and all this parking stuff, you're going to have a lot of traffic coming in and out of that street on Main Street. And then, what is the grade on your entrance there off the thing?
It's not too bad.
What is it? I don't know, too bad. That's just a matter of opinion.
So we'll let him answer that after you're done, John. So I guess if we could address questions to the board, then we'll turn around and ask the applicant or staff as appropriate. So.
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mike, you've got a couple minutes to figure that out. We'll ask you after we've gotten all the other public comment. Okay. Who would like to speak next? If you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Well, good evening. Thank you to the board for your time and dedicated service to our town. My name is Albert Meritz. I am General Manager of Chatola Resort, and I'm here on behalf of the resort, not representing the homeowners. I'd like to begin with an issue of clarity, and that being elevations. The application describes 2 underground parking decks, but it appears that the larger parking structure will rise several stories above Main Street and the Chatola entrance. And as you know, the height is measured from entry on the high side of the property. So even at a height of 35 feet, this will impose a structure substantially larger than anything surrounding it. So this is particularly important given the project's location at a key entrance to town. Second is scale. We don't believe that the full scale of the project has fully been appreciated. The proposal indicates 82,000 square feet of development. For context, that likely exceeds the combined square footage of all the retail in the 2 to 3 block core of our wonderful downtown. Similarly, the 85-room hotel component is equivalent to all of the 86 hotel rooms built in this town over the course of the past 40 years combined, which raises an important question for this board. Is this project evolving Blowing Rock, or is it fundamentally resetting it? Third, parking. The applicant stated they'll provide public parking, and it was said at one point a shuttle. The free parking has not been committed, but also from our experience operating our shuttle, these systems require significant ongoing costs and infrastructure. We encourage the board to require that any such public benefits be clearly defined, formalized, and enforceable if they are to be considered in this decision. Fourth, safety. In terms of access, the proposed entrance B presents a legitimate safety congestion concern. Our entrance is immediately beside it and serves hundreds of residents and guests with difficult visibility as it is. Visitors descending steeply down entrance B raises a serious safety concern. Sight distance, turning conflicts, and overall corridor safety are critical. On the topic of stormwater, the site drains directly into Chetola Lake. As we noted to the board recently, there is a high cost to regularly dredge Chetola Lake, and the applicant's water detention plan requires careful scrutiny to ensure that full compliance with the 1989 Watershed Protection Act prior to any approval. Compliance includes throughout any years-long construction process. While detention has been proposed, detention alone does not eliminate runoff volume or pollutant loading, particularly on a steep mountain side. Completion risk. And finally, addressing a practical concern is the project viability. Today, hotels are often sell below replacement cost, meaning it is hard to recoup your cost to build a hotel currently. At this same time, we have witnessed 253 hotel rooms in our market close or become inactive in just the past year, representing a staggering 38% of all local inventory. We also have a nearby example at 139 Laurel Lane of a cleared hotel site that now sits undeveloped. So we have to ask, what happens if this project is approved, the site is cleared, and the economics do not support the construction? Conversely, if completed, how many other hotels in town close? This is a serious risk worth considering. While we are about adding quality in our market, and we don't necessarily oppose thoughtful development, we are concerned that this proposal is materially larger, more impactful, and less clearly defined than it appears to be on the surface. Appreciate your time and your diligence, and certainly the service to your community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Trina McCoy, 537 Main Street, so I'm directly across from this project. At the last meeting, there was mention of a study done about the tourism versus room ratio. I reached out to see if I could get the information from the developers. What I was emailed was from the High Country Magazine in 2021. The first page says that Blowing Rock does not suffer from over-tourism. It suffers from severe lack of parking. In the same issue, there are comments from Blowing Rock citizens about the lack of affordable housing for people who work here, being overcrowded, maintaining the character of town, homes being rented out instead of permanent residents, and again, no parking, among other things. Embers opened in 2024 with 36 rooms. Per Watauga Democrat, in 23, 54 new short-term rentals were added. Windmore Hotel opened on Sunset this year with 18 rooms. Shops on the Parkway was approved with its build with 27 condos in the first development, not including the second or third development. Green Park Inn is under construction with 12 luxury condos with 40 rooms. How many more short-term rentals do we need in Blowing Rock? I'd like to see a new study done with the proof, I guess, that we do need more rooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tricia Aiken, 252 Heather Ridge Lane. I just have a very quick question regarding the comment about water. I just know that every single summer in July and August that every single resident has a significant reduction in the water pressure. It's talked about on the community page, every single one of us. And so although I know that the study says that our average water capability can handle it, I just question what that will do for the rest of the town's water pressure. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we did have two questions. Mike, True, question about the driveway and the grade on the driveway. Do you have an answer you could provide to that question?
Yeah, I did some quick math. It's about 12%, 12.5% drive, the main entrance.
And how long does that, what was your horizontal distance that you were measuring?
Well, I just measured the steepest part of it, the contour line's going up the hill, and it goes up to about that roundabout, and then it flattens out.
Okay. So that driveway is steeper than the driveway B? I understand. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had just one other comment just about and I understand about the dredging and the sediment that goes into the lake. I think when we pipe that ditch, that'll remove a lot of that sediment that goes.
Nothing's coming out there now. You think it will, but what if you don't think right?
Okay. So I'm going to call time on the interaction. Kevin, I imagine the answer is no, but do you have anything else to add about the water pressure and peak versus?
No, Jared, our town engineer, Jared's here. He might have some insight about water pressure. You know, depends on where you are.
Capacity is different than pressure, totally.
Capacity is different than pressure, for sure.
Thank you, Kevin. Hey, good evening, folks. And I don't have a tremendous amount to add about water pressure. Of course, you know, during some of those warmer months, you do have peak usage. According to the number you mentioned earlier, I think your average flows 100,000 gallons per day, 450 production per day. So obviously, if that spikes due to a 90-degree day, you know, you could see some reductions in pressure. You do have some aged piping that we've identified through various meetings in town, you know, whether that's a 2-inch section of corroded galvanized cast iron where you're having issues. All of that can impact what a user sees on their end. However, you know, in terms of supply, you have plenty of water.
Okay. So for the board, since we've gotten public input, any other questions for town staff or the applicant before we close public input?
I'll say one thing that somebody mentioned about if this site is developed, then they just stop. We have placed in some special use permits or conditional use permits, restoration bond that would be required on the front end prior to construction. That would get to a certain point to restore the site and replant to take it back to vegetation. We have added that to some projects of, especially in particular size. So that may be something that the planning board wants to address or include as a condition. And one more thing about conditions. So the applicant has proposed, this conditional zoning, they have proposed conditions. And if the project moves forward and there's staff conditions, and if there's planning board conditions and council conditions, if it gets to that point, the applicant has to agree to those conditions. That's just the way that it works.
Further, all of those conditions have to be acceptable to the town council first. I mean, planning board,
They do.
let me say it a different way. Planning board could come up with a condition that town council doesn't agree with,
Correct.
and that could then be discarded.
That's right. And, or even staff at that point.
Or even staff, right?
Kevin, I asked that question on one of the other projects that came before us back about a bond for completion of construction. At the time, we were told there wasn't.
That's not what I'm talking about.
You're talking about a restoration.
Restore the site back to, if they cut all where they're going to grade and they are meeting that and they cut everything off and then go belly up and they say, okay, you've got to restore it back. We cannot require a bond for them to complete the project.
Right. So I would like to see us use a restoration bond that we're talking about right now, because that's an important part, because if they start it, they stop it, then we still stuck with a unwooded, destroyed lot.
It came about many years ago when the Laurelmore project, Laurelmont, I get confused which one it is, but up on the old hospital site, that the project stopped, and then we were left with everything was taken off the site. And so I think from that time, we've tried to address that with some type of a bond that would restore the site back to its original, as close as possible, bring back some vegetation, some trees to get it to stabilize and get back.
One of the other things that I heard mentioned was, the lower parts down by the warehouses and dock rocks and all up in there, about looking up at this hotel. But, every evening that I drive and I see the Samaritan's Purse Hotel center, they all lit up with lights and everything else. I mean, we have that problem right now with Samaritan Purse. If we're looking for that quaint little atmosphere, Samaritan Purse is just right up the hill with lights like crazy, so I don't see much different. If they can keep the low lighting here, that would be much, if the architect and all can design some lights, because in your plan there, those light poles look like they're taller than the building, okay? And I know that's for architectural, so that you see in the light, and they didn't make the building look bad, but I think low lighting is a big asset that I would recommend they do. Yeah. You see how high that light pole is? I mean, you did a good job of painting it up there, but I don't think that light pole's that high. That's all I have.
I had one more question about the traffic study, and I just wanted to see if I could get this clarified. The study was from 2022, using numbers from 2021, if I read that correctly, and the project's changed enough that you're saying these numbers really aren't relevant because there's no retail, not use. I think it was the developer team. Is that correct?
I think what they were sharing, that we want to make sure it's a clear picture of what's being proposed at this time. It was more comprehensive in the larger project when it was done in 22.
Okay.
And one thing that I wanted to be clear was, if this is looked at again, is the left turn lane required? Is it necessary? Because it's pretty disruptive to put it in. And if it's not needed, then maybe we don't put it in. If it's not recommended, that's what I was getting at. If I want the TIA to reflect what's going to be built, what's proposed for construction.
So I guess that's what I'm asking is, So this, what we looked at is not, like, it's not totally relevant because they removed the retail, like they talked about generating 412 trips in the morning and 299 trips in the evening. Are all these numbers, should we just set them aside, do you think?
That's the better question for the applicant. This is what they produced, so.
There's been a pretty significant change to the plan from the original concept that we worked on. So, I mean, part of the process will be having that TIA updated is at the current point, but as far as the project goes itself, it's not that far of a departure from what was previously shown. So, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, it'd be nice to match it up, and
We are using older numbers.
you can have an amendment done. What I'm saying is that the previous concept did not have 150 rooms and it, you know, way more conference space. It had retail. The big change is the retail has now been removed.
Okay.
I think there was about 8,000 square feet of retail along the bottom. That has all come out. The conference center was separated. It was a little bit larger. It was about 5,000 square feet. So the deduction is the retail and a slightly smaller conference center that's now been pushed into the building. The parking numbers are pretty much the same.
Okay, so these trips, you think are probably, additional trips on Main Street are probably
A little less.
a little less, but still somewhat relevant. So
Yeah, like, I mean, it's maybe a
600
10% reduction, probably be my guess.
600 trips a day, less 10% on Main Street. Okay.
Kevin, since this is older information, I guess 2022, this doesn't reflect the phase one traffic that's going to be coming down at the shops area. So does that need to be considered as well, since a lot of those people will be using access to Main Street to get into town?
I don't know. I don't have a background in traffic assessments. That's a signalized intersection that serves that property. I don't know if that has an effect here or, you know, or does this need to take into effect everything that's been built in the last 4 years? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough change. Wish I could answer. I just can't. Speculate.
Okay. All right, so if we're done, thank you. If we're done asking questions, take a motion to close public input on this, and what that means is we're going to quit asking questions.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor of closing our public input? Aye. All right, so at this time, we'll entertain a motion from anyone in any direction. Okay. Does this mean we need to think a few more minutes? Before a recommend, so context, we are an advisory board. We are not a decision-making body. Our charge is to make a recommendation to the town council. That can be a recommendation for approval. It can be a recommendation to get more information. It can be a recommendation to deny the project. We're supposed to be an advisory board making recommendations. So that's our charge.
like switching over from theirs over
Yeah, but I'd have a reason why.
I think we're gonna make sure we have the water situation.
So with respect to lighting.
Yeah.
If you'd like to, yeah.
Have the water.
Screening.
I move that we, to table this until the developer can come back and meet the restrictions that the town has put on this project. If there's one thing that was crystal clear to me over the last year in this town, is people are tired of developers coming to the table without projects meeting the standards that the town has set. So if we table it, maybe they can come back to us with something that meets the requirements that the town has set.
In other words, just so I understand personally, in other words, without the variances that they've requested.
Without the variances that they requested, yes.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? So get a motion to table for where we are right now, allowing the applicant to come back with a revised plan that doesn't have variance.
Second.
So, Leslie has seconded. So discussion on that before we vote, our format is to have discussion among us about whether we like this idea, don't, if we have questions for each other about that. Okay.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the motion. If we're tabling it and it's going to come back to us with a different plan without variance requests, is that what your motion is? Wouldn't it be the same thing for you to make a motion to recommend denial of the project as it with?
Could be, yes, if that's the better motion.
It's not my suggestion.
Okay.
Is there a difference?
So it sounds like the people want me to move to deny it until they.
Well, we have a motion, a second.
Okay.
We're going to vote on it before we do
Okay,
it.
got it.
So other discussion? All right, so all in favor of that motion? Okay, all opposed?
Okay.
All right, so looks like unanimous opposition to that conclusion. Okay, so now we have an opportunity for a new motion.
Can I ask a question for clarification as the person? There are still a variety of open issues in my mind with regard to stormwater, a lot of the water control in general, the overall height, and I think there were some very good comments made about the density side of it, which I hadn't figured before. So how do we take that into consideration in a motion or in procedure?
So one way might be, and again, like Steve, I'm not suggesting how you do this, but one way might be to think about a condition. So again, we're making a recommendation to town council. And so it might be that we recommend, again, either approval or denial, whichever, but say we're recommending approval, but with the additional condition that there is a documentation that there would be no additional drainage making its way to any of the properties, including the manor, including docks, rocks, all those kinds of things. Right? So I think the way to do it, now is an example that may not be done very well, but the concept would be, if there are open issues in your mind, how would you draft a recommendation to town council to make sure that that issue or those issues are addressed, identified, and/or mitigated before it goes to town council? Okay?
And we need to do that in the moment, right here, now. Okay.
Did I say that well enough, Kevin, or you can give your own direction?
Right. You can, I think it's good to list the reasons that you have, any issues that you have with it, and ask, how could those be addressed? You can also ask them to address them and bring them back to planning board. You can recommend denial because of conditions 1, 2, and 3, or whatever that might be. If you want it to come back to you, it will not go to council until it comes back to you for you to make a final decision on it. If you recommend denial with conditions, because we're recommending denial because of these conditions, it can still go to council, and then the council can consider the application. How'd that help? I gave you too many options.
I'm definitely having newbie syndrome, so
Right.
can you also make a recommendation of approval with certain conditions, including?
Yes, you can.
Height,
You
dealing
can.
with drainage, dealing with lighting?
Yes, you can. You can make a motion, if you so choose, you can make a motion to approve and list conditions that address concerns that you have with it in its current state. Help me, Bill, am I right?
I'll make that motion, to approve, to recommend to approve the project, with the height variance, 46 feet, 2 inches. Also giving them the 1070 watershed provision or allocation. Identifying our concerns over runoff to adjoining properties, proximity of access number 2 to the Chatola entrance, and lighting concerns. Any other concerns you want to get on the list?
How about screening? Making sure that there's adequate screening
From
on Main Street.
along Main
Because,
Street.
I was less concerned with the height, with the comfort, knowing that there was a large buffer, natural buffer, but if there's gonna be a meandering sidewalk, there's gonna need to be some trees taken out. And I wanna make sure that whatever's taken out is replaced with something of comparable size.
Correct.
So if that's your motion, I'll second that
Okay.
discussion.
Can you restate your motion, please?
Did you get that?
Taylor got it.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes.
Mr. McCarter made a motion to recommend to approve the height variance, allow the 1070 intensity allocation, and identify concerns over runoff, proximity to the Chatola entrance, and lighting concerns, as well as ensuring screening and buffer from Main Street.
The last one about landscaping, would the staff recommendation that condition, would that address what you had talked about? The one that staff was, detailed tree preservation, selective dead removal plan required for review. Identify tree saving areas and strictly prescribe the limits of construction disturbance. During pre-construction, the landscape architect, project engineer, and grading contractor should meet with town staff to identify any utility, building, sidewalk, and vegetation conflicts. The conflicts shall be augmented with mature tree and shrub plantings.
That's good enough.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Add that, or that.
Well, that's already there.
That's already in
It's a
that.
staff condition.
I assume, Bill, just to be clear for Taylor, I mean, your motion includes all the applicant conditions and the staff conditions.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Is there any discussion? My one comment would be, I think it would be advisable, and I appreciate, Kevin, what you've said, but I still think it would be advisable to have the left turn lane into the site, irrespective of what a new traffic study says. Just that section of Main Street has fair amount. Again, plenty of capacity, but it can get slowed pretty dramatically by one vehicle turning.
Yeah, there was a concern from a neighbor back behind, they walk their kids to school. And so adding the turn lane widens out some of that blind corner on Hill Street and opens up that visual sight distance. So I hope that it does recommend the turn lane, but there's positive and negative with the turn lane.
But can we make it a condition, an additional condition is what he's suggesting, assuming that DOT may recommend it, but we want to require it, assuming DOT has no problem with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. If DO says one is not warranted, can the local government require it? I think they can.
If the applicant, again, the applicant has to ultimately agree to this, but it's been part of their presentation. So my preference would be to have that in there. And even if DOT says they don't need it, for them to still install it.
And it's DOT's road, so they're going to have to agree to it.
But we're assuming
agreeing
DOT will
and
agree,
requiring
right, but we wanted a requirement, assuming DOT.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my discussion point on this. I didn't make the motion nor the second.
Can you modify the motion to include the requirements for
So
the left-hand turn?
amending the motion to include
The left-hand turn lane.
at the applicant expense.
Regardless of DOT's.
Well, not regardless, DOT's going to have
They would permit, yeah, if allowed by
assuming
DOT.
DOT approves it.
If allowed by DOT, yeah, if permitted.
Okay. I understand you now.
All right, and Steve, you had seconded the motion.
I
Do you
did.
second the amendment?
I did.
All right. Having fun. Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, one thing that I'd like to clarify, because we're adding this would add 163 more parking spots in the town of Blowing Rock that we are so freaking short of, including my driveway that everybody parks in.
Including your driveway, yeah.
But I know it adds 163 and they're paid, but at least we have more parking. We would have somewhat less complaints.
Yeah, it's a good observation, GK.
And just one more comment. I just want to compliment the applicant and staff and the team, because I do think this project is very reflective of the Blowing Rock Mountain aesthetic. So good job for all involved, bringing it to where it is.
So we have a motion and a second. We ready to vote on it? All right. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 2, so 6 in favor, 2 opposed. All right, thank you. So that's the end of that item. We have more on our agenda, but we'll take a 5-minute break. Yeah.
I got to take a break.
Call the meeting back to order. A wonderful recess. So next item, discussion of special use permit process, which Kevin is going to talk us through.
Maybe you watched the retreat video or you attended, but at the retreat in February for council, I shared with them options to consider with regard to special use permits. There had been some discussion on whether we should keep special use permits as an option for property development review and approval. Let me go back a little bit of history. Early on in the town, in development, especially in the 80s, projects were approved by special use permit.
Linda, you could have any one of these seats.
Projects were approved with a special use permit. In fact, Shops on the Parkway was approved by Board of Adjustment with the special use permit. Then the term changed to conditional use permit, and that's what drove development, and that's how projects were approved from early 90s through 2014. That's the only option we had: zoning permit, administrative approval, and then special conditional use permit. Then we added conditional zoning as an option. It took us a couple of years to rock back and forth and finally get over the line to add conditional zoning, a legislative process that was used throughout North Carolina. And then we started in 2015, we had our first request, and then we started using that a little more often for project approvals. So there was some concern that special use permits, either the way that we handle them, or there was thoughts that, well, if you meet the ordinance, it's automatic, you get approval. That's somewhat true, because the ordinance is the target that you're shooting at. And you should get approval if you meet the code. And that is the planning board and staff and the council's job to make sure that our code says what we want it to say. And we get the result of development that we want based on what we require people to provide. So with the options that I presented to council, we can, 1, leave the land use code as it is. 2, remove special use permits and require all commercial projects to go through conditional zoning, a legislative process. If we did that, the existing special use permits would be grandfathered and any amendments would go to council, because we have a lot of them that govern the use of properties throughout town. Secondly, we would need to modify the use table where smaller projects could be approved administratively as a zoning permit. And we've, over the past few years, have made a change to allow a little bit of flexibility. We, especially in residential, we've said duplexes where they're allowed can be approved with a zoning permit. As the state has backed off allowing municipalities from restricting residential use and the looks of residential properties. And so we've allowed more flexibility and allow the town staff to approve duplexes and accessory apartments and things like that. The third option would keep special use permits as an option, but limit those projects to a certain size, maybe under a certain size or over a certain size. And so those are the things we're still kind of coming up with, and we're not going to discuss those yet. We will be bringing that to you. And then the fourth, which we're going to talk about tonight, keep special use permits, but remove the recommendation step with planning board. Planning board is still going to be required for conditional zoning by statute. If you're going to change the ordinance or you're going to change the zoning map, planning board has to provide an advisory role, or you got to have some board provide an advisory role to the council before that public hearing. One thing we found out when we had the Hampton Inn project is it was a special use permit, and the way that the planning board works, we're not bound by the strict quasi-judicial rules. And so we allow free flow of information and ideas, And it's always kind of been that way. You get the planning board and just about everybody can speak. It's good in some way that you get a lot of that information out there and understand what the concerns are. It's not so good when you get to council and they can't speak. By statute, they're not allowed to speak. They don't have standing. So it's not, when you go to a special use permit, it's, do you meet the ordinance or not? Not, is this good for the town? Is it, what's the public perception of this project? Do you meet the ordinance? And you got sworn testimony, expert testimony. And so it limits what kind of public comments you receive at a quasi-judicial special use permit. So it's confusing. It's confusing for staff. They've done this for a long time. It's confusing for you guys sometimes. It's confusing for the public especially. Well, I spoke at planning board. Well, yes, but you can't speak here. And so one idea is to remove your advisory role from special use permits. You're still going to retain it for conditional zoning, but remove that. So that's been a trend across North Carolina, is to remove that advisory role. You can still do it, but the trend has been lately to remove that advisory role from quasi-judicial decisions. And I provided you with an article or a blog from David Owens from several years back, and I hope you read that. It says it a lot better than I can. But there's if you decide to keep it, there's got to be some strict procedures on how the planning board provides their recommendation. So I know you have a lot of questions, and
Tell us, Kevin, before you let the free-for-all begin, what are you hoping to achieve tonight?
I'm hoping to achieve open discussion and dialogue. Now, I do want to hear your thoughts on it, but I would say as a local government, we're probably leaning that way of what I presented to you tonight. But we do want to hear from
The fourth and last option.
Yeah, the fourth and last option. Some of this other will come to you later.
Can you clarify that fourth option? Because what I heard you say is that we would take the planning board out of the role for special use permits, but we would maintain special use permits in the town that would just go to council, and then the public would never have an opportunity for input. Is that what we're recommending?
No.
What did I
Break it down. Remove the advisory role of planning board from special use permits. Right now, that's it. That's all that's going to be just that we're talking about tonight. We're going to, after we move through that recommendation or that study, we're going to bring other information to you. Should we even have special use permits? We'll talk about that later.
But would that be part of us or the council? Because you've removed it from us.
Text amendment would remove
Well,
it.
but if it's a two-step process, if you first take planning board out of the process, but you still are maintaining until further discussion, special use permits, if an applicant comes in with a special use permit, where is the input from the public?
At public hearing for the council. They still
can have.
Still a public hearing, yes.
Still a public hearing.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
But
understood.
they can only provide input if they have standing.
Correct.
So I
so
think
you
so.
don't
But
get
Steve's
input.
may be
That's the
asking.
law now.
I understand.
that's a
Steve
problem.
may be asking you a different question you're answering.
Yeah,
That's why it's best just to get rid of them altogether.
Yes, I would like this, yeah, I agree with that.
That's the second
We're
step.
not there, we're not going to talk about that yet. Let's handle the first part, that if special use permits stay as an option, take planning board out of the equation.
I have a question on that one too then, because we had an issue with special plan, a while back. We all had to recognize that we had talked about it before and everything else. I think y'all all remember that situation. But that project, I thought, needed to come before the planning board. So if you take, because he filed it as a special use project and it would not have come here, it was going straight to the council. So we wouldn't have made the recommendations that we did on that project. So I'm concerned about now smart developers would say, okay, well, listen, we'll just go away from the planning board, we'll go straight to the council, and we don't have to worry about a open public hearing or anything like that. So I think that's a little bit of a deterrent. But I do like if we get rid of special altogether, then that's the perfect way to do it. And I know that's the way I want you to go.
Keep that thought. And if we get to that point, great, but I'm not proposing that to you tonight.
Right.
Keep in mind, you make a recommendation on a special use permit. Council doesn't use that recommendation at all in their decision making.
Right.
It's really, and you'll read it in that, and you've read it, I'm sure, everybody. It's more like what we did down here at the neighborhood meeting. It's a dress rehearsal. So you get any issues with the neighbors or any issues among the public out in the open, and we say, we got a few things we can address that we can get this project better before we go to the public hearing in front of council.
But that's not a requirement in the code to have the neighborhood meeting.
No, it's not a requirement.
Is it? Because if I'm correct, we couldn't talk about that project even amongst ourselves when it's special use like that, okay? So how would you have an open meeting?
Technically, you're not bound by those rules. But you
made me do
Yes, because I know, because what happens is you get with a council member.
Yeah.
And you start talking about it. It's just better not to, but you're not strictly bound by the quasi judicial rules because you're an advisory board only. And if you are not ruling on these anymore, you don't have to worry about it. You're not involved. Bill has some information that he passed out.
What are we looking at?
Just a little survey of what's going on in resort towns and 4 towns that are near us. But just the glaring example is the difference between Blowing Rock and Boone. If you look at Boone's table of uses, there's only 3 special uses. And those are like adult establishments or a heliport, something like that. I mean, it would be the most extreme things that you would want to see go to a public hearing before council.
So
everything else is conditional.
Just to be clear, the column of uses is in our permitted land uses of, we have 313.
313 S's in that table.
Wow.
That's why everybody complains about special uses.
Just for clarification, Boone's Board of Adjustment, here's their special use.
Yeah, and that's more, if you look in that column down there, it tells you who holds the public hearing. In most cases, it's the Board of Adjustment that holds that public hearing, not town council.
And I think when all we had was special use permits, the council made that decision. We're the elected officials, we're going to make the decision. And then that was removed from Board of Adjustment, and then the roles were changed a little bit. Board of Adjustment, appeals, variances, and map interpretations. Council, we're the ones that make the big money. We're going to make a decision about the town. And that was done, I want to say 90 or 91, I think.
Okay, now I understand it, but here's the question I have. Because tonight you're asking us to look at just section 4 there and just, and approve that if we choose to. But, which takes it off the planning board.
Yeah.
But now it just goes to the council direct. Correct? So planning board doesn't, if the little project comes to us today, it wouldn't come to us, it just goes straight to the council.
That's right. That's right. What I am recommending tonight, I wanted to hear where you were with it. I will come back with a draft ordinance that you would see how this would be. So it's the official draft, and then you can make a final recommendation on that.
Perhaps we could get input from some of our other board members here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not done.
It sounded like you said I heard. I don't know.
My opinion is that a quasi judicial decision, like a special use permit, should not be coming before the planning board. It's just like the Hampton Inn. It just creates bedlam. I mean, it just
Muddies the water.
It's just crazy.
Yes.
In my opinion. But I also don't think we should get rid of special use permits. I know we're not there yet, just because flexibility, just because in general business, et cetera, that could include a residential property or building, who obviously doesn't want to go through conditional zoning. But for a quasi judicial hearing in front of us, it's confusing. It's just, things are getting out there. The town council can't even, they can't consider any of it.
That's right.
At all. It's almost meaningless. Well, it kind of is meaningless. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
So if we do away with our advisory role in the quasi judicial, if Hampton Inn comes back, it will go right to the council, correct?
Unless they decide to get
Unless they
conditional
want
zoning.
conditional zoning, if they come back with the
But
same plan.
it would be a brand new application. I mean, that's just talking.
Next SCP.
Right.
Other thoughts?
Can you clarify for me then, back to the point of how do they gather public, perspective on the special use permit? Or is it a desire not to actually get public perspective on special?
No, I think you're right. Exactly. That's the way it should be, because it's not, special use permit is not public perception or who's in favor of it. It's, do you meet the ordinance?
It's all about who's being damaged. That's why you take testimony and you have to have standing. And Brandon sits on that board. They struggle with standing every meeting.
You say almost, on the Board of Adjustments, I'm on that as well, almost no one has standing. Because what it has boiled down to.
You have to suffer special damages, and Bill and I were talking about earlier. And I've said, and I'm probably wrong, but why are we sending out notice if nobody can get standing? And I think some people could suffer special damages, but it's really hard to show. That answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, it does clarify some, and so so are they intended not to have public input as a special use permit and just a?
State law requires it on both.
Okay.
Special use permit and conditional.
There's still a public hearing.
Okay.
And who establishes standing is done at the public hearing. Are you going to suffer special damages in a quasi judicial project?
So what we're saying is that it's a public hearing, but the only public that can speak is if you have standing issues.
See,
It's not like.
Yeah,
I mean, the other people that speak are
But that makes
applicants.
sense in larger towns, but in a town of 1,300 residents, everybody's impacted by every project. And so.
Well, they think they are.
They think
Yeah,
they
they
are.
think
So,
they are.
well, in a sense, they are impacted by every project, so everybody really should have standing. So that's why I just don't like special use permits, period.
I mean, if you're looking just outside our ETJ where we don't have any control and the county has no zoning, are you affected if you live out that way from those projects? Probably.
Yeah.
In a negative way a lot of times. But the opposite of that is conditional zoning, where it is legislative. It is this good for our community? There are lots of opinions can be shared, and it's a policy decision for the council. And then you would still provide a recommendation. So we have to keep you in the loop as planning board, as an advisory role on a map amendment or a text amendment. Those things are still required. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, No, planning board's instrumental and has to be a part of that. But as it's been scrutinized more and more across the state, we're finding that we've been doing it wrong. A lot of people have been doing it wrong. We just didn't know. Maybe we should have.
We could have fixed that. Working at 60 days.
That's right.
Was the input process a problem? Or is it
Perception of no input.
versus perception of no input?
Like, you get to this, you get a special use, and you get to planning board, and we've allowed everybody to speak. And then you get to the council the month later, and like, sorry. And then everybody's ticked.
Right.
They don't understand. We're just trying to follow the law.
Again, it is a perception issue, and in a town, community as small as this one, if you talk to most people, they would say, why did I not get notice of a proposed project? Why are you only doing it within 500 feet of the site? Because every project, most people think every project affects every person in this community.
And
again,
the property owner has rights. And a lot of times that gets, in the community at large, doesn't put as much value on that property owner's rights to do what they want to do if they meet the ordinance.
So I know this is down the road, but with Blowing Rock having so many special uses, if they decide to keep that term, are they going to go more like Boone and have some little considerations to reduce the number? Or if they elect to keep them?
We had talked about taking some of those that maybe not be very impactful on the neighboring properties and making that administrative zoning permit where staff would approve it. Still have to meet the ordinance, but the process would not be public.
Even if you went through there and changed them all the S's to CDs, that's too many CDs.
Yeah, it really is.
You really need to whittle it down to what do you actually want to have a public hearing about?
And what drives this 313 number? Because it is, when you look at it, it is remarkably high compared to.
We just have a lot of use. Our use table is expansive, and sometimes there's not much change between one and the next. Like you have a restaurant in there, for example. You've got restaurants that are allowed with a drive-through, restaurants with outdoor dining, restaurants with delivery. There's just a lot of things, and I'm going to let Bill clean this code up for us if he wants to. But there's a lot of things, it says the same thing, it's just the way that it has been, not really dug into it. We've got a category under sales and rentals of goods that's listed as miscellaneous. That covers a lot. ABC, under sales and rentals of goods, you've got the main heading, commercial activities to be located within a building. The display of goods outside that building is allowed. Then you've got another one where you can't display outside the building. You've got wholesale sales, low volume traffic generation, convenience stores, high volume traffic. So it could certainly use some cleanup.
Before we even get to this, would it not make sense to take a shot at reducing or streamlining the number of uses and talking about what should be special use, what should be seeking, et cetera?
Yes, that's one of the recommendations for the next step, once we get past this first.
For me, it feels a bit backwards in that solving the problem by removing the board before clarifying and I'll use the term code, I know that's not the proper one, but the permit table seems like we're solving the wrong problem, or we should be solving the criteria problem and not the input problem. So I'm just curious, I mean, that's just what I'm hearing as a naive person.
They both are, and the simplest thing first is to take the planning board out of. So the next guy that applies tomorrow for a special use permit, we've already solved the issue that is most problematic. We don't have a huge problem with the number of uses that we have, but we have a problem with the process of open meeting and then a very restricted meeting.
And that problem is a problem for whom? Not for the applicant. I mean, other than an additional month and an additional meeting, it's a problem for you, problem for the council. Who's it a problem for?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Council?
For the public.
That's what we see in all the surveys. Every time a survey goes out, it's eliminate special use.
Well, sure, but that's, again, that's going to Leslie's point of that's the thing to talk about first, perhaps. If we're seeing that in surveys, do we think those surveys are going to be a lot happier? Survey takers are going to be a lot happier when you say you can't talk at any point to anybody? I don't know. I mean, I'm not the one complaining, so I don't know. And I mean, to me, my view might be a little too simplistic, but it might be town council could say to us, if our recommendation is you guys get out of this process because you're causing us problems, like, okay, I'd respect that. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. But, you know, if town council feels like, yeah, do it or don't, we don't really care. I mean, that's different than we don't like you doing this because it hurts us, hurts the town, you know, at large. I don't know. It's really hard for me to, you know, we keep going back. I mean, people are saying it some people are saying it in different ways. If people feel frustrated, if the public feels frustrated because they can't provide input at a town council meeting, how does eliminating planning board help that?
That just exacerbates the problem.
I mean, I'm not saying that with a conclusion. I'm saying it as a real, just kind of like, how does that help? I mean, I don't really like wasting time for something that doesn't matter. It's not what I do for fun. But, and if there's no value, there's no value. But I don't know. I mean, I struggle a little bit with like, what's the problem we're really solving?
There truly is no value. Council cannot consider it. If they do, it's a constitutional violation. It truly is a waste of time, other than if you want to have a hearing, let the public talk, it means nothing. And then that's why they get more upset when the actual quasi hearing comes and they have no standing, they can't say a word, and everything they did say is off the table. It cannot be considered at all. As personally, I feel like that would frustrate.
It can get us in, as a town, in a legal bind. And that's one thing that, you know, I talked with Vaughn with Benchmark, and he's given us a lot of advice and helped us rewrite codes, done 2 comp plans. He said, I've been writing planning board out of ordinances across the state. Just for that simple fact of cleaning it up. And he said in a lot of areas, he's getting rid of special use permits too. I don't know that that's us. But that's why we're like,
So you're saying, Kevin, we'll still have a public hearing and people without standing are able to speak, correct?
No,
that's not what you're saying.
The
You're saying,
public hearing is at council.
okay, so you can only have standing. Okay, so we remove pretty much anybody's chance to speak.
Bill, let me ask Bill this. Maybe
Small the town.
I don't know that it prevents someone from speaking. I think you can still let them speak at the council, but we have to determine, do they have standing going forward if the project was to be denied, or if the project was to be approved? Do they have legal standing because they suffer special damages? I don't think the council's intent is like, we're only going to listen to the engineers and architects and that's it.
That's kind of, I disagree with the way that last hearing is held. They try to determine whether they have standing before you even let them speak. Let them speak and then decide whether that issue that they brought up gives them standing.
I disagree because in determining standing, we asked them what their issues were. We went through the whole list with them, and they, in my view, did not have special damages.
Yeah.
It was black and white to me.
Which hearing are you referring to?
The last Board of Adjustment here.
The one where and I made the comment at that, 3 neighbors right there.
Yeah.
They were trying to keep them from speaking, and I said, well, if they don't have standing, then nobody has standing. And that's sort of the way I look at it. They were trying to not even let those people speak.
Yeah, we always let them speak and then
No, they wouldn't let them speak
determine
without
whether
standing.
what they said was relevant or not.
At our hearing, they had to have standing before they could speak.
Yeah, see, and so much time is wasted doing that. That's why it took 2.5 hours.
All right, Kevin, you have heard a bunch of comment.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I asked for it. I am prepared to bring back draft language to move in the direction of taking the advisory part out of special use from the planning board. If you would like me to do. If you don't, then I'll have an answer for that too. That will give me another answer.
I would support that.
Yeah, I would support that if it was with a recommendation to eliminate special use permits or change the code so that it limits the number of special use permits.
Your comment is on record.
The 2 council people here, so they heard.
We do need to limit the number. That's the catch.
Okay.
Is that going to take a subcommittee to work on the table? And get it back?
Me and you, Bill, we can do it.
Bill, you're a good subcommittee.
We'll write the whole thing after 160D.
Think we can get it back to them next month?
27. It'll take some time. All this is going to take some time. We're committed to getting through it.
Other input for Kevin? You got what you need?
Yes.
Big motion to adjourn.
Let's see if we have any other old business first. All good?
I don't have any.
All right, make your motion.
Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, motion to adjourn. Everybody in favor?
Here we do. Y'all, thank you so much.
Welcome to y'all first meeting.